to East Hampton Town Board. We are live.
Great. Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Michael, if you please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor Lease.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Burke-Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this morning we start with a public comment, and we ask you to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. That's followed by, we have 5 work session topics today. Jeannie Carrozza will talk to us about bids. Jeannie Nielsen will lead a discussion of 6 new New York State real property tax laws that were passed by the state, and the town has an option of moving forward with those. Scott Wilson will be presenting the draft 2026 CPF Management and Stewardship Plan. Ian Calder-Piedmont has 3 proposals for Springs Park, and David Lease will be leading a discussion on the Amagansett Streetscape project. That'll be followed by liaison reports and resolutions. But before we start, we have some folks here joining us today that I want to acknowledge, and that is Chief Sarlo, Bruce Bates, Steve O'Brien, Diane Patrizio, Patrick Dorenz, and Steve Lynch. And on behalf of Steve, we've got Kevin Cobb here. If you'll indulge me, in the quiet hours of this past storm, while snow and wind covered our town, something else happened across East Hampton. Long before most of us woke up, town employees were already out on the streets, in their trucks, at dispatch consoles, and checking in on neighbors who needed help. Storms have a way of reminding us who we are as a community. At its heart, East Hampton is a place where people look out for one another. Over these last days, that spirit was everywhere. Residents were checking on neighbors, helping clear driveways and hydrants, and offering patience as crews worked to restore normalcy. And it was on clear display when our town employees stepped forward to care for this community they serve. Our highway crews, under the steady leadership of Superintendent Steve Lynch, worked through the night in difficult and dangerous conditions, clearing roads so emergency vehicles and residents could travel safely. Sanitation staff stepped up into new roles to support snow removal and keep our streets moving. Chief Sarlo made sure that police officers and dispatchers stood ready for every call. Steve O'Brien coordinated his parks and building maintenance teams to ensure critical facilities remained operational. Human services staff, led by Diane Patrizio, checked in with seniors and vulnerable residents, making sure no one felt alone during this challenging time. Our public information officer, Patrick Dorenz, kept residents and local media informed with timely updates. And our emergency preparedness coordinator, Bruce Bates, helped guide the response with steady leadership and coordination. These are not easy hours. They mean missed sleep, missed time with family, and long stretches spent working in freezing temperatures. Yet again and again, our employees show up without hesitation because they understand what public service truly means. Local government is often experienced in the everyday moments that people may not always see. A road cleared before morning, a welfare check placed at the right time, a calm voice answering the phone when conditions feel uncertain. During this storm, our workforce reminded us that government, at its best, is simply neighbors helping neighbors. I have the privilege of working alongside these dedicated public servants, and I want our community to know how proud we are of them. Their professionalism and care helped keep East Hampton safe during an historic blizzard. On behalf of the town board and our entire community, thank you to every town and village employee, as well as every local contractor who worked through the storm and its aftermath. Your commitment does not go unnoticed, and it makes a real difference in people's lives. East Hampton is stronger because of the people who step forward when others need them most. And I just want to thank you all, and please thank your teams for the care that they gave to our community. know, board members have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say that, you know, we all have our liaison departments, and every department was involved in some way or another. And I was just incredibly impressed with my departments, you know, the speed with which they kind of reached out with any response, the forethought to encourage, you know, people to contact, to reach out to our vulnerable residents and contact them with their needs and ensure their safety. But then beyond that, getting the centers up and running again as quickly as possible, people stepping outside the realms of their typical jobs. It was truly, you know, fantastic to see. So thank you to all our departments for that. You know, I will additionally say, it's like, look, we always have room to improve. If there's any feedback that people wish to share that, like, you know, why did we do this or could we do this? We're always open to listen to that, because that is our goal, to always be better. But overall, I just want to thank every department for all the incredible work you all did.
For myself, I want to thank the departments, but I also want to thank the residents for patience out there and understanding, knowing the storms and that we had were historic in nature, but also came in an intensity, but also in a repetitious aspect of it then too. Your concerns, your fears were heard, and hopefully the town responded to alleviate those, and we will continue, as Tom mentioned, to reevaluate post-storms. Some of the leadership that actually Kathy just mentioned, even during our storm, probably went through some of the darkest storms in their families' times also. And for that, without mentioning that, there's prayers of strength to that family also. Overall, what I want to mention is that the coordination that the supervisor had with the town staff allowed the town to get back as soon as possible. And again, there's always places for improvement, but overall right now, I've dealt with COVID, and now I've dealt with the historical blizzard on there, and I feel like the town is in a good sense with the staff and leadership that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I just want to relate personal experiences. One, I just think it's a testament to the preparedness that you all ensure the gears are going to happen. You're all prepared for this. And as someone whose family got stuck out of town, and I was in the blizzard alone with neighbors who were quite elderly on both sides, and be able to access your cars and be able to continue as quickly as you did as we were all able to, was phenomenal. We had 60-mile-an-hour winds on top of that falling snow, and that probably was the most dangerous threat to you all. Trees down, wires coming down. But on the Hamptons.com cameras that still were operating, I just saw the trucks going back and forth all overnight, constantly. So I just want to thank you and thank the entire community. I think this is when we really see who East Hampton is, and we all work together. We instituted travel bans. Everybody was on board with that. Everyone cooperated to help us get through this and get back up and running quickly. So thank you all.
I don't have much to add, except for I just want to reiterate the gratitude for everybody that the supervisor mentioned and all town staff. It's certainly not lost on any of us that, you know, when we have a snow day and are stuck at home, that everybody's out there working and overtime and extra hours. So incredibly grateful for all the work you've done.
All right, beautiful. And to Tom and David's comments, we are going to be having a meeting on Thursday internally to go over storm response and, you know, what we did well and what we could improve upon. So we're always learning. So I just, again, thank you, everyone. All right, we're going to get now to public portion, and we've got Dan Mongan signed up. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Dan Mongan. I live and work in Amagansett. If I could take 10 seconds of my allotted time and reserve it and just say that I traveled here today on safe and clean roads, and I noticed how great the snow response was, and I'm personally grateful, but I think I'm not alone in that. But now to why I came. There are a couple of different things happening in relation to, or at least under discussion in relation to Amagansett Main Street. And one of them is subject of your work session today. It's the streetscape, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. But in any event, I did have a quick look at what has been published about that. And I have had some conversations with friends and neighbors, and I wanted to share some personal thoughts. I'm a trustee of the Historical Association, trustee of the library. I belong to various different organizations, but I'm just speaking for myself. The proposal to change the streetscape on the south side between Indian Wells Highway and Hedges Lane is in part welcome. That stretch of footpath needs attention. It has unevennesses, it has edge drop-offs and various different issues that present either safety or comfort or aesthetic or maybe all of those concerns. And I'm delighted by the idea that the town would take interest in the footpaths in Amagansett, which are quite significantly ready for attention throughout the hamlet. So along Bluff Road, there are a number of deficiencies and defects in the paving. All along the north side of Main Street, you can find a variety of different issues, and all along the south side, all the way over, to Atlantic Avenue. I'm less familiar with the footpath past that, but some of it is newer, so I hope there are fewer concerns. Anyway, footpath repairs, yay, great. What's not great for me is taking grass out and putting in hard paving. I think you have options. I think you have less expensive and more beautiful options. So in particular, the idea of bringing the design philosophy of the north side of the street at that section to the south side, I think is undesirable from my opinion. The hamlet has a variety of different architectural mini environments, and those two sides of the street are quite different. The north side is more densely developed, it's more commercial, it's more heavily used, everything about it is busier, and it currently has 100% paving from the private property. Am I out of time?
Yeah, go ahead. You wrap it up. We took a few minutes for the storm, so that's fine.
Don't pave the grass. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Would anyone else like to address the board? Please. Good morning, Regina.
I was here a few weeks ago.
If you could just say your name for the record for the clerk.
My name is Regina Whitney. I live in East Hampton, on the corner of Few Highway and Middle Highway, which I want to talk about. And for me, it's a very important piece of property. And I know it's it's not south of the highway, so the town may be not so interesting, but a lot of, like you see, a lot of people live here, and we worry about our situation. This is about the Webb property and Eastern property. This picture was taken, I don't remember exactly, but you will figure out, I couldn't find out this, but when the Webb wasn't allowed to put this apartments, and his property was subdivided for 8 properties. So that's what he's supposed to do it, but he didn't do it anything in the last 2 years. He's using this property for his commercial use. It's like he's a builder. All the supplies, everything is there. The pile, 70, I talked earlier, 70 huge tracks pile on the property. Our property is surrounding webs for the both sides, and the both sides have the piles. One is almost high like our house. From the middle highway side, on the back is lower with the yellow, and it's another closer to the Bistrian, which was created when the I forgot his last name, but his first name was Marty, the director of the enforcement. He was only the one person who took seriously, and he stopped this person. But I don't know his story. I would like to. What I read, it's hard to believe why he left, but this is a different story. But law is a law. So if this is a property for residential, so I don't think so. Web can use it for the commercial. And talking about the web, even now when we're talking, he's using his trucks. I have, my house is facing each room to the street. And I took the time, I make a notes and mark when his truck was coming. I give you quick, only the day. For example, February 19, there was started 7:15. His big, huge white, yellow backhoe goes to the Bistern property, and I noticed there was 8:15. There was first truck with the Bistern size, which are the red ones, and they were every few minutes. And they first start was 8:15, fill up with the soil. The last one was 3:22, fill up with the soil, and there was 2 trucks this day. And make this notes. Oh shoot! There was end of the day. There was 30 trucks going one way, and 29. I probably missed it the other way. And all those trucks, they taking soil, good soil. We know that it's in East Hampton. It's the water on East Hampton on Oakview Highway for whole town. And his property is not very far. And I know from, I cannot touch with this person, but I know that she did it already, some noise about it, and he apparently was stopped digging from there because of the water for East Hampton. But he keeps doing. On this picture, see, 2 years ago, there was this much. See how dense is this area between wet and Bistrian. I can now, from my house, from my bedroom, I can see the houses on Middle Highway on the back, which I couldn't. All this white off, there was somebody was talking months ago, are gone, there a few years ago. But all this here to make the big driveway, and I know the previous director who there was on that he's supposed to replace vegetation, put back. Nothing happened. He's supposed to move the big things, boxes, nothing happened. Just more and more stuff is coming to his property.
So Regina, I will have,
I understand.
Kate will the liaison to code enforcement will reach out.
I tried to make
Yeah.
appointment with you because I recorded a lot of stuff. I asked for 10 minutes, but I see you are very busy, so that's why I'm here. And I look for some other way to make a little movie or something to, I know somebody who does this, and make a little history of this property because it's unbelievable.
Regina, would you please leave your contact? Oh, we have
your contact.
Okay.
You have a big.
I'll be reaching out to you.
I think you can do everything, but
Okay.
anti-flow is for everybody. Doesn't matter who.
I'll be reaching out to you, Regina. Thank you.
No. Because I noticed last time you were on the computer looking at how dense it was before and how empty.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board? Larry? Welcome, Larry.
You have to excuse me, I'm not as I'm sorry, I'm
You just
Larry
need to say your-
Zimmerman.
right,
Yep,
so that
Larry
the clerk
Zimmerman,
can-
I'm an East Hampton town resident. Larry Zimmerman. I wasn't prepared, I didn't know you were having a board meeting, I actually came to see you, Kathy, but I'm here because of the building department. 6 weeks ago, I was approached by Allison McDougall, practically accosting me, asking me if I wanted to be a building inspector, and I said yes, and she told me to send in my applications, which I did, and I didn't hear anything back, so I followed up with Emily. 2 weeks later, she got back to me and said that I had to be, or the inspector had to be fluent in Spanish. I followed up with that. I think I finally got a phone call from Rebecca Hansen. You were away. You didn't call me back.
I didn't get a message from you, Larry.
I left one, that's fine. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the building department is as much as 9 months behind on certificates of occupancy and building permits. Why? Now, I was a builder out here for 30 plus years, and I'm still doing it part-time. In those 30 years, there was never a subcontractor, an inspector, a material supplier, a carpenter, a laborer, anybody that I couldn't communicate with because I'm not fluent in Spanish. And now, with the building department so far behind, you're specifying that it has to be a Spanish-speaking person to be a building inspector? That is so, I'm not going to say what it is, but it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous because they're buried. When I went in for my interview with Allison and Richard, there were two young kids there. So even coming in with my experience, I would have to take a course and take an exam required by the state. The two kids in there are learning about construction from this course that they're taking. I have almost 50 years experience, and you're telling me I have to speak Spanish to work there? You know, listen, I want the job, but you guys are buried. The town is buried in building department paperwork. Even if I went in part-time and help get the certificates of occupancy that are now required to sell a house, I mean, people are losing commitments. They're losing deals. I'm offering myself to you, and you're turning me away because I don't speak Spanish. How ridiculous is that? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Larry. Would anyone else like to address the board? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we got two people on the line. Let me go get them through.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I had to let that go through. And
No worries.
all right. And in 3, 2. Hello, caller ending in 2777. You're on the air.
Good morning, Town Board. This is Michael Chinque calling. I want to thank the town board and all the departments again for their handling of the snow. I must say that I am the senior. I've been on Main Street for 45 years as a shop owner, and I've never seen such a pile of snow in our parking lot. We have a pool in town to see if it's going to be there until April or the end of May, but great job from all departments, and thank you very much. Being on Main Street for over 45 years, I'm here calling to support the beautification and also the safety of the south side of Main Street. It's just absolutely going to make it beautiful. Right now, most of the year, it's either mud or dirt. It's also, I'm the safety officer of the fire department for the last 39 years, and I must say that there's many trip items there between unleveled dirt and the drop-off from the concrete to the dirt. So that'll level that out, and I think that's going to be just terrific. Also, slightly widening it. You really almost can't walk two across currently. So all for that. I'm also on the board of Amagansett Village Improvement Society. We've met on it, and we really support it. We're excited to put our flower boxes there and our flags through the holidays. So we're really in support of it. We really love the idea of cleaning up the south side of Main Street. So we thank you guys very, very much for making our town beautiful, and not only on Main Street, but the whole town. I believe also we found the funding for this. Job well done for that. So it's really not going to cost the citizens much. So we appreciate that. So job well done. Anything I could do on any of my capacities in the town, I'd love to help you guys. You're just doing a great job, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Michael. Jason, if you could put the next caller through.
Absolutely. Caller ending 4221. You're on the air.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Town Board. It's Jane Meering. Excuse me, I'm speaking today as only an Amagansett resident, not as a member of any town-appointed board or committee. So about a month ago, I did come to public portion, and I had heard about this beautification in Amagansett, and I made some comments. And one of the things I did ask for was to ask the board to do a work session on it, and you are doing that today. So I just wanted to note that and say thank you so much for bringing this, more fully in front of the board and the public. I did have one question. Obviously, listen to what you have to say. On slide 2, I just want to make sure later you are clear, because there's a little bit of what seems like a contradiction. So It says the project area, Hedges Lane to, up going west, I guess, to the entrance at the mobile station. But the slide also says to create a harmonious and cohesive character for all of Main Street Amagansett. So the first thing I want to make clear is this really just for that Hedges Lane west portion. I hope it is, to see this extend any further over time, more eastward on the south side would, I think, really, really change the character. So if you could just clarify that later. Also, I know that the sidewalks are not discussed directly in the historic code, but I do just really ask the board that when you think about the width of the sidewalk, how much brick, could some grass areas be saved? Just, I know you will, but always keep in mind what that district says, right? Retain the rural and informal character, to retain the connection to Amaganssett's agrarian past, and again, stressing the rural setting. So I'm not going to jump ahead of your discussion. And then lastly, on the issue of, so if you can really minimize as much as possible the concrete. I also would love to hear some discussion from the arborist, because I know this will require a whole bunch of, I think, stabilization, root cutting, so we'd love to hear some more about that. And finally, on the issue of safety, I agree safety needs to be enhanced there. One thing I do want to raise more for future thought is it might be really important for safety to consider another crosswalk along that part of the 27, really somewhere in the vicinity of the library, sorry, not the library, of the Talk House or the hardware store. I think that would go a lot for safety. So that's so much for that. I also do want to say, wrapping up, again, thank you so much to the town board, to everyone who worked in not just this blizzard, but the 3 storms put together. I don't think anyone should underestimate 390 square miles of town, 300 miles of roads, how complex it is to manage and run this town well. I think there are some people who might think they're less experienced and don't understand the complexity of it. So thank you for everything that was done.
Thank you, Jane. Jason, has anyone else joined the
No
line?
other callers have joined.
Okay, so we are going to move on to topics now, and the first up is bids with Jeannie Carrozza. Good morning, Jeannie. Welcome.
All right. So I have first bid is for mobile food concessions for select beaches. Can't wait for the warm weather, but anyway. The first one is the apparent high bidder for Ditch Plains Beach and Otis Road is Ditch Witch for 3 seasons, a total of $46,236. The next is for Indian Wells. Exotic Bowls is the apparent high bidder for that. 3-year total was $43,000. And Exotic Bowls also is the apparent high bidder for Kirk Park in Montauk, a 3-year total for $25,000. We also had a bid for the supply and delivery of Jet A with additive and 100 low lead fuel for the airport. The apparent low bidder for that is Ascent Aviation Group. They are the same bidder, the same contract we had there over the past, I believe their contract ran 5 years, and we had a total of 3 bidders for that. And then finally, I have several notices coming up. First is for the on-call window repair and replacement for various buildings. Stephen Hans Path Recreational Facility Mobile Concession. Glock handguns and associated items for the East Hampton Town Police Department, and a sidewalk plaque for the highway, and following next week, food service and kitchenware items for human services. And that's it.
Beautiful. Questions for Jeannie? All right. Thank you, Jeannie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up we have Jeannie Nielsen, who's going to discuss 6 new New York State real property tax laws that went into.
Good morning, Board. Jeannie Nielsen, Assessor's Office. Busy legislative season for the state. These are all exemptions, proposed exemptions. They I'll just go through them very, very briefly. The first one I want to talk about is Chapter 4, 581, and it's a change to the senior citizen with limited income, 467 of the real property tax law. It adds new criteria for percentages of eligibility. It goes down now as low as less than $47,000, you can get a 65% where the limit used to be 50. So it's an increase. There's steps that have been added to the sliding scale.
Jeannie, what's the age for senior citizen?
65.
Thanks.
So that one's out there, and it's based on that sliding scale that we already have in place in the town. And this isn't, you would have to opt into this. The next one is Chapter 672, and it's creates a new section of 458A, which is allowing 100% exemption for veterans who meet certain criteria of disability. The criteria is massive on this exemption. There's, along with being 100% handicapped, there's like 5 or 6 other things that you have to meet, and you have to meet all the criteria, not part of it, to get it. So that's something to look at. But this is not an opt-in anymore. They just recently amended it. It's now the law. So it's something for you to look at some point.
This one is the law, so we don't need to do a local law and have a
No,
public
you don't. But it's an interesting exemption. Anyway, so it's something to look at, and you really should look at the criteria.
Well, you want to take it through it right now? You've got it?
Well, let me just see. I actually, they didn't really give all the criteria. Assessors had to scramble to get their own criteria together for this. 458.
This is 672.
Let me just look at this. Yeah, so this is a culmination of a number of assessors in Suffolk County putting this together. The veteran must have served during wartime, must have a qualifying condition under New York State Veteran Service Law defined as post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, be a discharged LGBT veteran with an other than dishonorable or bad conduct discharge. Next, you would have to be 100% service-connected disability with a permanent and total designation by the VA. You would have to have a total disability based on individual unemployability, TDIU designation from the VA, and you must qualify for the VA's Special Adapted Housing Grant. Let's see if there's anything else on here. No, this assessor just states that, you know, you would have to file additional forms if you already have a 458 veterans exemption, alternative vets exemption, and this would be added to it.
Okay. So this is already law. Is this going into effect in the next tax?
I believe it's already, it already went in.
Okay.
It's I believe it's March 1st, 2026.
Okay.
Jeannie, did you mention, sorry, that the veterans have to have served during a period of war? Because that's one thing I just can't saw. Is that one of the criteria?
Hang on.
She did mention that in her list. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Yep, served during wartime. Okay, so that's those two. The next one, Chapter 592 provides for a surviving spouse of a volunteer firefighter with 2 to 5 years of service killed in the line of duty to receive an exemption up to 50% of the assessed value pursuant to 466A. And I don't believe we have any of that yet. We have not lost anyone to service, but it's there for the surviving.
Actually, I recently met, I don't mean to interrupt, but I recently spoke with somebody who does qualify for this, and this is a timely discussion because they would qualify, so.
Is that because it doesn't have to be that they lost their spouse in this jurisdiction? Like, could it be
Yeah.
a city
Yes,
firefighter
exactly.
whose
Yep.
spouse lives here now?
Unless that doesn't qualify, my understanding is that that would.
Well, what I believe does not qualify are paid firefighters.
Oh, this is
It's
only for
volunteer.
volunteer firefighters.
Key word is volunteer.
Hopefully I have something else prepared.
So the next one is Chapter 677, change to that law creates a new section of.
Can I just go back? So
Yeah.
for 592, so this would be of a volunteer, and then would we, because it says here 2 to 5 years, that's a big difference. So then if we were to want to pass a local law, we would have, as a board, would decide whether this term of service was 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Is that how?
I really don't know.
I think that's what we do with the existing tax discount for firefighters, that, you know, it
It
used to be
says 2 to 5 years,
yeah.
but it changed from a minimum of 5 years, and we adopted, I think, a few years ago, down to the 2-year.
Correct.
And everybody's on board with that, every fire department.
So we currently have the 2-year on the books?
Yes. Yeah, we do. So the next one is Chapter 677. It's a new section of real property tax law 458D, and it allows up to a 25% exemption for active military service members serving in a combat zone. Whereas, you know, veterans exemptions are for people that are out of the service, so these are people that are actually serving right now. And that might be something to look at. The next one is a Chapter 670, and it creates a new section of the real property tax law 471, allowing for up to a 50% exemption for surviving spouses of police officers killed in the line of duty. They don't have the criteria set for this yet, although towns west of us have already opted into a lot of these exemptions. They're scrambling for applications, scrambling for the criteria, what defines killed in the line of duty, et cetera, et cetera. We're waiting for that. They recently amended it to say they're going to make an application, but they haven't done that yet. So towns that are doing this now have scrambled to do their own interim application process.
But otherwise, the state is going to be coming down with what that definition is going.
Hopefully, we hope, but so far, the only thing they amended was the application. So we need more criteria as to what defines this exemption.
Okay.
You know, like, is it for unremarried? If you do remarry, do you retain this exemption if you've been eligible for it? So who knows? We're waiting for that. And the last one is Chapter 432. It adds a new section 457A to provide an exemption for certain real property transferred to a low-income household. Now, I don't really understand all of this one, so you would probably have to look at this. It says that it's a partial exemption from taxation of certain residential real property transferred by a governmental entity, nonprofit housing organization, land bank, or community land trust to low-income household. And what it says is that the real property tax exemption authorized pursuant to this paragraph of the subdivision shall be an amount that is not less than 25% and not more than 75% of the assessed value. And then it gives a definition of each one of these, what a land bank is, what a community. And I think I sent that to all of you, and you should be able to go over that and read it and see. I don't know how this differs from the ADU thing, but I'm sure it does.
So Jeannie, there's 5 laws here,
Yes.
potential. One of them is already in effect, so there's 6. This would have to be code if we want to pursue it. Has to be drafted by the town attorney's office, right? Reviewed at a work session, gone to public hearing. And I just want to find out, is March 1st, 2027?
That would be the date.
That would be the date.
Yeah, it would
So
have to
for
be in
maybe
place
one of
by
them,
then.
where if we wanted to pursue the one that gives a 50% exemption for surviving spouses, where we're still waiting for the state to come forward with criteria. We could have some time to see if the state actually comes through with that criteria, or if that doesn't happen, if we wanted to pursue it, we would then have to create our own. But the local law would need to be adopted.
Yeah.
Adopted or
would have to be in place.
Yeah,
the
so that's
exemption.
actually would have to be in place by maybe February 1st in order to go to the Department of State.
Okay. Yes, it would have to be. We're just, doing it a little bit differently than other towns. They scrambled and did it. And I'm sort of glad we didn't.
Well, part of it was because of the way our meeting schedule worked. There wasn't
I get it.
time to get, legislation drafted.
Well, it's fine to
reviewed,
take your time and look
heard.
at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, when they don't have an application for a couple of these things yet, but they passed it, signed it into law, what do they expect the town assessor's offices to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they, created their own. And everybody's pretty much the ones that opted in, and I don't know everybody that did, but Babylon did, and their assessor came up with a criteria, and the criteria that I read for that veterans one came up from there, because there's no criteria all the way through for that either.
Right.
So waiting, it probably is the wisest thing for now. Now it gives
For
you
some
time.
of them, maybe not all
now
of
it gives you time to review.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right, Ian, do you want to start?
Yeah.
You're the liaison.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. First of all, I just want to thank you, Jeannie. I know this is a very busy time for you and your office. Thank you for this presentation. We've discussed this a little bit already. And I know these were passed late in 2025 without, as you explained.
Yeah, during Christmas week.
Right, and that doesn't leave a lot of time. I mean, it sounds like a lot of time generally, but based on the meeting schedule and some of the clarifications needed, I understand that it's been a little bit of a scramble to put this all together. So I appreciate your presentation. I'm in favor of all of these. I do think that there is some work to do and some clarification. I think we'll lean on the attorney's office a little bit to help if we have to describe criteria. But we have now almost a year to get these in place, so they'd be active for next year. I don't want to wait, however. I'd like to sort of start to do that work, because I do think all of these are important. And I misspoke. The person that I spoke to would qualify for the police officer killed in the line of duty. So even though we don't think of that as something that we have, may not think of a lot of residents here, it applies to some people, and I think that matters. So I'm in favor of all of these, and I'm certainly willing to help work to get criteria in place. Obviously, we have to have a more in-depth discussion about each of them. But as you say, we now have the whole year. Hopefully over the summer and by fall, we'll have some more details in place and decide on each one of them. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, conceptually, also, I agree with Ian. I'm in favor of all of these. I think they're a long time coming for folks that have made tremendous sacrifices, first responders, veterans, people with low income. And I think that we'll iron out the details, but it does say here that, that these laws require the action of local governments and school districts to be in effect. So as far as that means to me, it also can be the school districts can do the same thing. So that would be significant for folks.
They should be brought in on this early.
Yeah, thank you, Jeannie.
And see which ones they want to do and which they might not want to do.
I think we can iron out the details, but I'm in favor of all of these and getting them done.
Yes, if the board wants to have a conversation with the 6 school districts, that would be good.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but actually, Jeannie, you and I spoke about that too. These are all good in theory for sure. I know it's a lot of extra work for your office, especially if, certain tax, schools opt out. It's very, very complicated in terms of all the different, permutations of how these would apply. So I'll certainly help reach out so that hopefully we have a clean opt-in for all, districts by the time we adopt it.
Usually the schools do follow what the town does. I'm not sure about this one, but
I'll make sure to help coordinate that.
Okay.
So from my perspective on there, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I appreciate this discussion, knowing that it came down at the end of the year and that we've been in a rush to get into for this tax season, but I am definitely prepared and want the town to take the effort to start drafting this code changes where we need be. There's a lot of safeguards built into this. Any of these for the efforts these individuals, either for the seniors that have lived in our town, the officers, military, or our fire departments, the amount that would be offset here is de minimis what the town's budget is compared to what the value they have now given to our society on there. And I think that's something we should hold in the highest regard, and also to help wherever we can in these situations on there then too. It seems like there's enough safeguards in some of the general obligation law for us to start drafting with your office also. I would like to see us match the fire department years. I know we decreased that recently, if you were on the board at the time, down to 2 years. So that's where I would personally rather go instead of 5 years. But I'm wholeheartedly support moving this forward, the ones that we do need to opt in to make sure we're prepared for the next calendar tax season. Also making sure you have enough bandwidth within the department, not to be anything to be rushed to, Jeannie.
Right.
So thank you very much for bringing this forward into the town and giving us ample time to review and respond.
Thank you. Look, I think conceptually and philosophically, I'm in support of all of these. You know, my only slight concern and red flag that's just getting raised in the back of my mind is like, look, tax avoidance is a big business. And there are many people who have very low reported incomes, but they found ways to kind of get income elsewhere through loans on assets, et cetera. So I have slight concerns that this could potentially be abused by someone, you know, and do we want to consider caps on property value for what we're going to kind of allow for this reduction to be, or do we have to adopt this across the board? Because I could see the situation where, you know, someone who declares a very low income, but, you know, borrows against their resources, which happens quite frequently today with high net income people, you would potentially be eligible for this discount. And is that right or fair? So I just want to see if there's any safeguards we could put around that.
And that's for 432 and
432, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm supportive as well as my colleagues. I think what, you know, Ian, as liaison, maybe you pick off one at a time, and so that, you know, the town attorney's office, because obviously the devil's in the details when this gets translated into actual code for us to review. And maybe Jeannie started with 581. Personally, that's where I would start. I think you have everything's in place for that one to be able to.
Yeah, this is the one that I did the most work on,
Right.
because I thought it was the only one. And then January 3rd comes around and here's 5 more.
Right.
And the assessors are all over Suffolk County, all over the state of New York, scrambling.
So 581's for seniors. That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, it's actually just an extension of
What we have
the
now.
over 65 senior exemption that we have in place now.
I'm happy to coordinate with the assessor's office, with the attorney's office. And I mean, look, if some of these prove very, very complicated, I think we'll take the lower hanging
Right.
fruit first. But I think it's nice that we have this long runway. So as complications arrive, we can deal with them. But I'll definitely take a leap.
Great.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Okay, moving on. Scott Wilson, we're going to discuss the draft 2026 CPF Management and Stewardship Plan. Welcome, Scott.
So, I've done this speech for you before.
What number is this?
18.
Nice
So,
picture.
Some of you, 8 and 9 times? So this might sound a little bit repetitive to you, sorry
Bless
about
you.
that. So on a year-to-year basis, revising this plan is a good opportunity to revisit our projects, both proposed and in process, to properly account for future and ongoing stewardship expenditures. All properties need some form of stewardship, be it posting of signs, cleaning up debris, or reconciling encroachments. However, the majority of the 10% allotment of stewardship funding is attributable to historic restoration projects, which I'll outline in a moment. We have acquired interest and rights in real property of 548 parcels, with 7 more in contract, representing over 2,445.73 acres. And just a note, we had a contract signed yesterday. So between my telling right now, we have other outstanding contracts that are likely to come in. So we'll make slight modifications to this plan by the time we get to public hearing, just so that we reflect those properties that come in. So we accomplish the vast majority of our stewardship work in-house. We create a baseline document, which documents the parcel as it exists at the time of acquisition. We create management plans for those properties with some proposed human use, and we regularly monitor all our CPF properties, corner to corner, every year for encroachments, dumping, or other issues. The baseline documents and the management plans are available on the website right now. We actually included the links on page 6 and 7 of this document for ease of access by the public. And beyond in-house management, the proposed management and stewardship plan discusses any known projects along with associated expenses. So just a quick recap of what's in this plan, pages 12 through 14, with regards to some of those historic restorations I mentioned. So Carl Fisher House and Annex, 44 Foxborough Road. The town acquired this property for historic and open space and recreation on 12/10/2021. The Montauk Historical Society has a license agreement to manage this property. The town has hired DB Bennett to do an engineering and create biddable documents for historic restoration. The town hired Robert Hefner as our historic preservation consultant for this property. We went out to request for proposal. We received those bids. Award of the bid will be imminently forthcoming, just waiting on the paperwork, and Jeannie will be presenting that to you. It's just shy of $3.7 million what we're setting aside for that restoration project. The Dodge property, 803 and 807 Fireplace Road in Springs. The town acquired this property for historic and open space and agricultural purposes on 10/25/2023. The property received a local historic landmark designation, the Julius D. Parsons Homestead, via resolution 2023-851. The town hired DB Bennett as our engineer to generate restoration plans, for which plans, bids, estimates for any associated restoration costs will be created. The town hired Robert Hefner as our historic preservation consultant, and that plan is in process as we speak. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to send you a copy of that. The Edwards House, which is part of the Duck Creek Historic Landmark designation on the Duck Creek property, 127 Squaw Road. The town acquired this property in February of 2005 with a landmark designation in June of 2009, resolution 2009-658. The town is working with L.K. McLean Associates for a structure assessment of the Edwards House, from which plans, bids, estimates for any associated restoration costs will be created. Currently, this work is not complete. The town hired Robert Hefner as our historic preservation consultant. The plans actually should be released later in spring, early summer, after which we'll hopefully then go out for RFP. That structure needs help as soon as possible. 66 Wainscott, Maine. The town acquired this property for historic, open space, agriculture, and water quality purposes, and designated the structures on that property the John Osborne Homestead Historic Landmark. This property contains a 1904 Louisa Edwards Osborne main house and the 17th century Osborne barn. For 2026, the town has hired Stewart Preservation Services, LLC, as our historic preservation consultant, and DB Bennett to generate plans for phase 1 exterior restoration of the Louisa Edwards house. The plans are almost finalized. I received a final copy, which we're sending over to the Property Management Committee, which will come over to the town board as well. You know, once we actually get those plans, we get reviewed by yourselves, the Property Management Committee, then they'll be reviewed by planning, they'll be reviewed by the fire marshal, ARB. You know, we've got a lot of process to go through. So once receiving plans, that doesn't mean we're ready for the next step. We still have some work to do, but that will hopefully happen also in 2026. There are several leaks in that roof, and so exterior restoration is a necessary task. The town recently acquired farmland property at 20 Springs Fireplace, upon which there is a barn and associated structures. The town hired an engineer to do an assessment. Based upon that report, it was determined that refurbishment while possible, was cost prohibitive, and so we went out for bid to remove those structures, and that was awarded, and those structures will be removed this spring. So those are the primary projects that are likely to incur all within 2026. There also may be other projects throughout the year that we are not yet aware of. So once adopted, we may revisit this plan as we get more figures, facts and figures from the engineers and go out for RFP. We can update this management stewardship plan as well. The stewardship budget being just over 4.1 million, which is the allowable 10% of available stewardship funding based upon our last auditable year in 2024, which was 41 million and change. With regard to this plan, the responsibility of our department was to create a document that will guide us in our efforts towards appropriate managed stewardship goals and objectives, assist in prioritizing projects, and control related expenses. From our perspective, that lends transparency to the plan, giving the general public an opportunity to participate in the discussions surrounding proposed expenditures. And again, this is the 7th or 8th or 9th time you've had an opportunity to review this. Year over year, the body of the document is pretty similar. You know, the meat is really just with regard to the projects. And so if the town board has any questions regarding those projects, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, we're going to start with David, since you're the liaison to CPF.
Sure. Scott, yes, I've heard this one from you in the past. I also believe what you hear from me is the same in the past. This is one of the most interesting documents that the town of East Hampton does, and it's a living document that does change based on properties that we acquire, but overall, it does give the stated philosophy of the town board's use of the Community Preservation Fund in a very educated, well-versed historical way. Yeah, cut and paste is fine. That's good, and I appreciate that. But overall, if anyone wants to read something that's very interesting, and it's this document, I actually enjoy it much. I don't have much to add. I talked to Scott about a couple minor changes that we had there, just to make designations about the municipal properties on there. But overall, I support moving this forward to the next steps, and also I support the way that we're using the Community Preservation Fund in a conservative way, but also in a very effective way in the township over the last year. I thank the supervisor for guiding that. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'll jump on next to this, okay? I mean, look, I think we've done a phenomenal job with preservation of land in this town. You know, something we've discussed, and Kathy, you've brought this up in our discussions we've had, is, you know, the prioritization matrix. You know, like, what is the overall strategy behind this? Risk mitigation, ecological urgency, cost efficiency, climate resiliency, public benefit, you know, how are we prioritizing those goals as a town? I mean, for me, that to some degree goes back to the comprehensive plan goals. You know, are we kind of managing to those with our CPF acquisitions? But I think some guidance of the prioritization with the M&S plan, I think would be very, very helpful. You know, the other piece that just, look, I see it from what's happened in the Peak, I see it out there in much of our public lands, is just slightly more depth on our ecological management and risk management within our public lands, be they for invasive species or other elements. You know, what is kind of the clear-cut strategy for that? Or is it kind of more of a laissez-faire approach that, like, look, as invasive species come in, we allow them to come in? Because I think that's something that's going to be a growing issue for us as a town. And, you know, for this document or a future version of this document to have guidance on that, I think will help boards.
One of the things I didn't note, I apologize, is that the CPF law actually, sorry, Tom, yeah, I agree with you, Tom. The CPF law changed this year, or actually last year it changed. So this is one of the first full documents that we have had to review some of those, some of the small changes that might actually affect the management and stewardship plan as far as tending to properties with licensees also then too. That's all I have, sorry.
Yes, I mean, the community overwhelmingly supported the community preservation laws, the funding sources for it, and recent history included water quality. And for me, you know, along with housing affordability and preserving the community, preserving our history, which I think is detrimental to lose as a people and as a community. If we forget where we came from, I think we make mistakes on where we're going. I also think the ability to have community access to these structures that were once private structures and were for the enjoyment of a few to the enjoyment of all of our community is essential. And also, of course, the water quality and ecological benefits are a funding source for that because of, as Tom said, the impacts of the climate crisis and on water quality in our community, overdevelopment, to be able to have public access, which then ties into our ability to have water quality projects to improve these water bodies is essential for our future as well. So as we save the past, we are also protecting our future with these management plans. And that's why I think this is so important. And I also, again, thank the community for supporting CPF funding, which is a percentage of a tax. So overwhelming support from the community, so I support as well.
Thank you, Kate. Ian?
Yeah, I support all of these changes as well. Scott, I know you've worked very, very hard on some of the historic restorations that we've talked about in the Property Management Committee. It's very exciting. There's some real gems of historic structures that we've purchased through CPF over the years, and I think it's great to have a real plan to make sure that we restore those and preserve them going forward. So I'm fully supportive. I know Dave has worked very hard in the Carl Fisher House that is, imminently going to be restored. And as he said, it's a very, very interesting document. I think the CPF has been a real benefit to the town. And now that there's restoration and water quality funds, it's a delicate balance as to how we spend that money. And I think you've done a wonderful job. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. I just found one typo.
Oh, I thought you might.
You know me, page 12.
I'm coming to you this morning.
Robert Hefner, we're missing the T in Hefner at the bottom of the page. But I'm supportive of sending this to public hearing and the conversations that we have about, as Tom brought up, prioritization, farmland over historic preservation, over, purchasing properties along our shoreline. Part of this, though, is also comes down to a willing seller. So we can have the best laid plans like, okay, this is going to be our effort, but then if those properties aren't available, and something else pops up that we never expected would come to the market. And, with this program, we've been very fortunate that many people now come to us and they would prefer to see their property preserved by the town with the CPF than to go to the open market. So, we've got a great legacy there. So, but thank you. I think this is, with the T and Robert, I think this is ready to go notice for public hearing. Would we be ready to do that on Thursday night for a public hearing on March 19th? Is that a
Sure, Michael doesn't mind me slipping it in there.
Is that, yeah, there's time, right, Michael?
This time.
All right, beautiful.
And one other thing I want to say, I know there's occasionally criticism of the CPF law and the town in that we are raising, housing values because we're purchasing land. And I think everybody should understand that the properties we target are not just any parcel of land. They're environmentally, at risk or endangered, or there's some reason why this is a very pro-housing, affordable housing board. We are not trying to reduce the housing stock. So I just want to make that clarification because I hear often that, if you weren't buying all of this land, home values would be, more affordable. And while there may be a small amount of truth to that, the properties that we target with CPF are very, very specific and not ideal for housing. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, and we're also fortunate now to have a funding source for housing purchases that we can evaluate as well.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Okay, moving right along. We've got three proposals for Springs Park. So I guess, Ian, you're up.
Yeah, so I've been, last year, we did a invasive species removal project at Springs Park. There's three parts here. I'm proposing a restoration of the area that we removed. We did a test plot of about an acre, which was mostly autumnales, but other invasive species. There's also a mugwort issue in the park where there's a lot of mugwort, and there's a second proposal, which is a donation for mugwort removal. And the third part of this package here is just modifying a modern modification to the management plan to allow for those other two to make sure they're consistent. So when I proposed the invasive species removal, that's been part of the management plan for a long time. This is a historic nursery, not, pristine, untouched land. And the nursery was, when the town bought it, was sort of let to go. And autumn olive's a very aggressive species. There's also black locust and other invasives there. Really took over. And I think everybody agrees that that's not ideal habitat or an ideal, situation. However, when I proposed that we, remove those invasive species, the hope was that there would be, some native still standing, so it wasn't as stark as in fact it was. I always said that this was a test, and the invasive removal was the first step, and then I would coordinate with town staff about if there was another step, and I believe it's appropriate now to take further action. The plan here is a revegetation plan with native species, and I think there's an important point here that this, because it was a nursery, is totally fenced in. So as we all know, there's a lot of deer pressure in the area, and it's often hard to establish native plantings. We actually have, I spoke with Dave Leese about this, exclosures in places that show the difference of how plants can be established when they're protected and when they're not. This is a protected area. So I think it's a unique opportunity to establish native forest. And frankly, there's not agreement with all park users on what this park should be. But in my conversations with the former Springs Park Committee and just park users in general, most people want it to be a natural feeling park and appreciate sort of the combination of forested areas and meadow areas. So I think this is a really good opportunity to establish native forests. The plan also shows sort of paths across that because people enjoy being able to traverse, the native areas and enjoy it from sort of all sides. This is just a concept. I want to thank Mark Abramson from Natural Resources for all of his help, Andy Gates, and Scott. I also spoke with other people about their concepts here. But, I like I said, I'm fully supportive of this. I wasn't initially convinced that we needed to do a revegetation, but after seeing the result, I think it's appropriate, and I think that this is a good plan. The plan also, as you'll notice, has different sized trees. Many of them are going to be smaller because we're taking a long view here, but there's also some larger trees put in because I know one of the pieces of feedback I've heard from park users is that they want shade. And so trying to put some taller trees, but also some smaller plants that will establish over time. So I'm curious what the rest of the board thinks, but I'm fully supportive. And this would be a restoration project with CPF funds that would, I think we don't have an estimate for this, but it would be an RFP situation. So depending on what the board thinks, I hope we can move to that soon. Planting season would be, now. When the snow, I guess not right now, but when the snow clears,
Not today.
you want to get in before the
Ground's not frozen, right?
Yeah, the summer heat. So that's the biggest part of this proposal, I think, is the revegetation of that area where we did the invasive species removal. Through conversations about the park generally, we also received a very generous donation from the Long Island Conservancy. Devin Giordano is actually here in the audience, the executive director. And my understanding is that I don't know, there was an anonymous donor, but somebody who's particularly interested in East Hampton and the park in particular wanted to contribute something. So there was a $10,000 donation to the Conservancy, who then in turn offered it to us for a project. That amount of money wouldn't cover sort of this larger revegetation. And so we talked about what else might be able to be done in the park. And the other major issue that, again, has come up overall the Springs Park conversation since I've been on the board is the mugwort. Mugwort's an incredibly invasive species, very hard to remove, but there's an offer of a donation for a small section. Scott, if you could point out the area that is proposed. It's small, but it's a sort of a proof of concept. My understanding is the proposal is to remove the mugwort and really, really densely plant native species that will hopefully, smother out any sort of reoccurrence of that mugwort. They're willing to do it anywhere, and Scott and I have spoken about this. I think we would want to move the test plot up towards the front behind those benches because it would be a beautiful spot, and we want to make it as prominent as possible, and hopefully it would be effective, and then we could talk about whether we would expand that effort. But I'm fully supportive of that and greatly appreciative to Devin and Long Island Conservancy for thinking of us with that donation. The last part of this is just the management plan, and basically the original management plan was to remove invasives and establish meadow. But again, in my conversations with people who use this park, I think both the forested areas and the meadow are valued. And area that's currently mugwort, I think, is appropriate for meadow. That's what it's supposed to be, but we mow it once a year, and by the end of the year, the mugwort really comes back. And so I think we still want to allow for meadow, but we want to make the change in the plan to also allow for revegetation of forest or other plant materials. That wasn't a part of it. So the management plan is a very minor change based on these other two projects. So that's all I have. Mark Abramson, who developed the plan, is here, and Scott is here. They've both worked, and Andy Gates as well, I want to give credit to. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. They're the experts, but I'm very supportive and hope the board will be too.
Thanks. I'll jump in. I'm supportive of this plan. I think this Springs Park is a place where dogs, you can take your dogs off leash, you can walk your dogs, it's totally fenced in. It's one of the few places in town that folks with dogs can have that ability to socialize and walk their dogs in that environment. I know the mugwort takes over even the trails, so the sight lines and the ability to even have distance between dogs going one way and another way, or folks, becomes more and more difficult. I think it was essential to get rid of those invasive species in the first part of this, and now obviously the replanting with native species will only enhance everyone's experiences and provide better ecological benefit for wildlife in that as well. Mark, I have a question about, this will have temporary irrigation to be able to get things going?
Since there's not really any water in the area, what we were thinking was, we have in the proposed contract for maintenance twice a year. So at those points, they will definitely be bringing in some water, and they'll be, whoever we hire as a contractor, be handling if there's some sort of drought, that they will be able to get there to make sure that the plants are going to thrive.
But a benefit of native species is they don't need perpetual irrigation and fertilization to exist.
Yeah, and that's exactly one of the things that we're thinking of. I mean, I would think that the best time would probably be the fall, so that they can get established, and then through the next summer, they should be able to handle that once they're established.
If they don't get buried under snow, like my fall plantings are like, squish. I also want to thank the Conservancy, Long Island Conservancy, for the very generous gift. Thank you. But that was my main concern. I think canopy is important as well to the users. Being out in the stark sunlight is not great for anybody. So it makes it just more comfortable to have a natural tree canopy over you as you traverse some of these paths and sit in the benches. So
yeah, it was Ian's suggestion to do that, and we were able to specify areas along the path that would have the more mature trees to help with shades while they're walking through the path.
So could we pull the plan up again? And Mark, could you just take us through the plan for those folks that are at home? Because, it's challenging to just see a graphic go up. Beautiful, thank you.
You want the narrative up, or do you want the map up?
You can leave the map up.
Okay.
So basically, those circles are going to be clumps of 10 either trees or shrubs. Again, we're having a mixture of smaller trees and shrubs. The green ones are going to be 5-gallon trees, 10 foot on center. And then the blue circles are going to be, mine's blue and green. The lighter green would be the actual shrubs, 3-gallon shrubs. They're going to be more closer spaced at 5 foot on center. Then the circled trees are going to be the larger specimen trees. There will be 12 to 14 feet, which will be bagged and balled, and more significant trees, so that they can actually provide some shade in the trail area. And the brittle star shaped path would then end in an area that can possibly put in a bench that we can dedicate to somebody, or whatever you guys would decide upon.
And all the plantings native?
All plantings would be native, and we do have a list of what we were suggesting. some plants that are native but not rarely found because they get browsed by deer. So this is going to be something of an experiment so that we can see some of these more rare shrubs and trees that we can see be able to survive when they're not getting eaten by deer.
And then what the path? What's the?
That'll just be a grass path. So, or whatever native whatever's in there, there'll just be a mowed path.
Okay, and then how does the maintenance work? You had said twice a year. So what would we expect when they came in to maintain it?
So for the contractor that we would go to RFP would then on a semi-annual basis make sure the survivability of the plants. Again, if some died off, we probably would go for like a 75% survivability. If some died off, they would have to replace them. And then to make sure that they're actually keeping on top of any invasive that might come in on those, the spring and the fall.
So like I know for this garden, every week we had volunteers here pulling out the mugwort. So I don't know if we're going to be able to keep mugwort at bay in here. So are we expecting the contractor to be weeding?
On those two semi-annual cases. I mean, the start of the project would actually have as much material removed that is invasive, dug, like all the roots dug out and all the stumps ground to make sure that there's the most, as much as they can to make it not come back. But we'll, again, we will see how it works. Again, this is gonna be an experiment to see if they can survive within the so close proximity to other invasives.
Yeah, one of the problems with invasives is that they're invasive. They're very, very aggressive, and so even though we took them out before, there's signs of them starting to come back.
The name fits, right?
Right. Yeah. and so without any management, I think that the autumn olives just come back. There's been talk of potentially just mowing the site, but then there's some concern about mugwort moving in. There is not a lot of mugwort in this area right now. Mugwort thrives off of disturbed, again, I'm not the expert here, but off disturbed areas, and I think would like this. So the idea of getting a planting established is to outcompete that mugwort before it becomes a problem. As far as the path maintenance, we may need to mow it, but honestly, most of the well-used paths in this park, it's so well used, just the foot traffic alone, yeah, it keeps, I think, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think those other paths are really, the main trails there are.
They're all dirt path. And
and they're dirt because they're heavily, and after 5 years, if 80% of these trees are, have survived.
75%, but
70,
I can move to 80 if you'd like.
Okay, 75, sorry.
That's just what we usually use for revegetation, so I just make it consistent.
Yeah, I'm just not as knowledgeable as you. But if we do 75% survival and the invasives aren't there after 5 years, I think that would be give us a very good chance of success. There is a little bit of an experiment, but again, we're in an area where there's not an ideal situation to start with. So I think this is the best path forward.
But this is a test for enclosed areas because this test doesn't translate to any other property.
Yeah, that's why Ian suggested that we do bring in some stuff that hasn't survived out in the rest of East Hampton or survives very rarely. So we can actually see what these plants would look like in a habitat that doesn't have as many deer.
Yeah. Well, in an area where they're likely to survive because of the fence, and also in an area where there's so many people to enjoy them. So to me, it's kind of taking a bad situation and creating a win-win.
And I'm going to get into the weeds, no pun intended, a little bit, but the other idea is this is a significant piece of property, and when you have invasive species growing and birds feeding on them, you're increasing the rate of spread of these invasives. Well, homeowners are trying to fight them. They're having a field day over here. So I think working on this is essential for just good management of invasive species and control.
So listen, I like a lot of things about this. I like the range of plants that you're looking to put in the sense that offers different biodiversity opportunities for the flora and fauna in there. So I think that's a really smart move. I do have concerns about the mugwort to the north, kind of trying to colonize this, because that's what it's going to do. And so how we manage it, I think, is critical. The other thing that just I mean, from my last walk through that, I don't know if they've been repaired or not, it was a while back, but there are some holes in the fences here and there. And, that deer will get in. Like invasives, deer will come in and they will destroy this. So in terms of protecting the shrubs and the trees we put in, will they have sleeves? I assume they'll have sleeves around. Will those be biodegradable? Or will this just be planting and kind of, what's the approach there to prevent that? I mean, not just deer too, squirrel will also destroy a lot of these young shrubs as well.
And
So
turkey too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we can discuss moving forward on. Again, this was just something put together so that we can present it to you. Again, we can always narrow down the scope of whether we're going to protect the trees or the shrubs or some sort of temporary fence for the first year or so.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
So for myself on here then too, this poses a lot of challenges here. I'm a little bit more skeptical on this one specifically about the effectiveness of it. Ian is exactly correct. In the Wildlife Advisory Committee, we petitioned the town for funding for our deer exposure. We added that up into the Grassy Hollow Preserve. And if you go there now, very similar to what you'll see on Shelter Island when they did that into the Mashomic Preserve with a couple hectares areas, it's green. Deer browse is here, and we might agree to disagree on that, but deer are penetrating our forest. So to try to come in and show a controlled setting, such as what we did up there in the Grassy Hollow Preserve, there's only one other option besides here. That's the town is a fenced-in area of size and magnitude, and that's the airport. And even at the airport, there is a herd. That's a whole different discussion on there. I guess my question here is, you hear this a lot from me, Ian and I have discussed this, I'm a long-term maintenance guy. As long-term maintenance is planned into this, it's something that I can start to get behind. I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe I'm hoping for more here in a way. And just, I support what you're going at. I have skepticism on there, but the worst effort is no effort, Ian. So by putting an effort in here, I support that. I know the challenges that this specific property has had over the years. There was support when we did the bamboo removal at the Maloney property. Successfully done. No one ever did it. No one ever did on the East Coast on there. And Niche Conservancy came in, or yes, Niche Conservancy we worked with, and that's been successful on there because the maintenance on there was easy. This is going to be a little bit more challenging and difficult. And I guess what I'm saying is maybe I want more is, why can't we do this in another location? Keep this space for grasses and then move on to another space where there's mugwort also. I think this is the perfect location to try to do more tests of how do we try to reforest and renaturalize our locations. I'm not going to stop that from my support, but I would like to have more of a discussion on there, knowing that this is the location to try that. I don't know if you've ever been into that nursery. Wasn't the best. A lot of those trees are just left in place over there. But now what has come is becoming a community gathering area. And so to put those eyes on it is why I would be supportive of the funding to go into it. When Ian and I have discussed this, I'm coming around. I'm challenged to it. But I guess I like to see more. And a lot of times what happens is when you change something, it brings a lot of different individuals' opinions, and that's on anything we do, a lot of things in town. Here, I think the uniqueness of the site right now being the fenced-in location could allow for some future change that will end up having a lot more greater reward in the township. I remember when Zach Cohen was around, he was on the member of the Nature Preserve Committee. He talked about meadows, and there's many meadows that we have lost to no maintenance to them. And we're trying, and your land steward, Scott, do a great job of that, trying to have grassland meadows, which all Montauk was, and a lot of springs. So maybe I'm trying to say, can we be a little bit more active on trying to use this site for maybe not just a woodlands, which I think you're almost trying to bring back, but potentially also for grasslands, which working with the Conservancy might be that maybe we can even expand that more. So I'm skeptically supportive of that. I wish you luck on it also. The other two portions of it, yes, thank you very much for your support of the township on there and moving that forward. Look to see how that is. I think bringing that into the forefront is appropriate. And then also the change to the change in the management plan is appropriate on there. When we take that, since this is a February installation probably by now, they're stating to get prepared for it. I know we got a lot coming on the 19th. Maybe we can hear this in the management plan in April. That's the only thing. I think we're going to have 6 or 7 public hearings. So with skepticism, but also optimism, I support it.
Yeah, the skepticism is warranted. And Mark and Scott are being kind here, but they've been skeptical too. There was a lot of work that went into this. I think that the long-term maintenance is an important part. But again, we're not starting with an ideal situation. To your point about the potential to do more later, I think that that's important. But based on the way that I proposed the invasive removal, I felt it was important to follow through on that test and sort of show a proof of concept before we do more. And I think the addition of the mugwort removal was frankly a pleasant surprise that might be a possibility, because that is a really good opportunity to establish the grass meadow areas in places where there already are, no trees. So the skepticism is warranted, but again, we're not starting from an ideal position. And I think that this is a risk well worth taking.
No, I agree with that. And look, I think I mentioned it in the M&S plan too, like invasives are a massive problem out here, and actually having a test project where we go in and try to reintroduce more native species is an excellent concept.
Yeah, I think we have to take advantage of that opportunity.
And, sorry. The last thing I want to say is that, I'm bringing this to the Spring CAC spoke about this, and I think not this plan specifically, but generally revegetating this. Otherwise, this is the first public meeting of this, and that's intentional because this has been a controversial park, and I want to make sure that everybody hears about this at the same time. Certainly welcome any public input before we move forward. The idea here is to sort of float this out there so that everybody knows what the concept, but I really welcome all public input. This is the point of this meeting is to get the board's, feedback, but also public input about what they think about this plan. I think that it's going to have support based on what I've heard, but I just want to acknowledge that this isn't 100% packaged where we don't want to hear any feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're supportive, Ian, we can come back and do more in there?
Yeah.
When you're successful.
Yes, exactly.
So working backwards, the management plan, it sounds like the revision the board is supportive of. I don't know if that was something this could be on for Thursday night for a public hearing on the 2nd, as Ian commented that, I'm actually surprised that we didn't have some folks from Springs that utilize Springs Park here today, because normally anytime Springs Park is on the agenda, we have a packed house. So it'd be nice to let folks know that there is a long lead time, leading up to the.
Yeah, no, I agree. We should probably SBH it for the 19th for an April public hearing.
Or SBH it for the 5th for an April public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that people have a month's notice that we're having a public hearing. I mean, I think, well, I'll reserve comment until the public speaks, but I think the change is minor to the management plan. Thank you to the Long Island Conservancy for your generous donation to the town.
Thank you, Devin.
And now we'll have a test if we can remediate mugwort. And then lastly, on the restoration plan, I heard a couple things. Ian, I thought you had said that this could be something we did in the spring, and Mark said we might be more successful doing it in the fall. So do we have a plan as to when we would want to?
Well, I think it would depend.
Execute.
I think it would depend. I mean, Mark is the expert, so if he says the fall is best, I'm happy to wait. I think it depends on, I would like to get, situated, so we, go out for RFP, and whoever responds that RFP will also hopefully, that's going to be an important RFP. They have to have experience in this area. What do they think is best?
You're not going to get an RFP for the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, maybe not.
So,
Yeah, and so it might be fall, but
Again, I think fall will probably be the best. And again, we did put in some actual qualifications for whoever's applying to the RFP.
Yeah, my goal is just to sort of take the next step forward. And again, Mark is way more expert than me on this. If it falls best, that's fine. I still just want to keep it moving forward because things take time. At least it gives us a little bit of runway.
Okay. All right.
And the mugwort, I think, may be, since it's a donation, maybe that's, we'll have to talk more about that. That might be appropriate for the spring. I really don't know.
Accepting a donation.
For that part, I think that would be, certainly would be fine.
Okay.
And again, if we can get that done that quickly. Great.
All right. beautiful. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, and now we have our last topic today is the Amagansett Streetscape Project. You're up, David.
Yes, thank you, Madam Supervisor. Just going to wait for Chelsea Winslow to assist us here, and we'll describe.
Great.
So overall, working with Tom and as myself being a former liaison to the Amagansett CAC and also an individual that frequents Amagansett on there, we're looking at an option to change some of the streetscape on there for safety, beautification, and other means. And once we have this loaded, we'll start up. Thank you. So again, this is the Amagansett Streetscape Project that I'm presenting to the board. It's a proposed safety beautification and safety and beautification improvements for Main Street, New York State Route 27. The project overview, yes, it's a collaborative streetscape and beautification project to promote a harmonious and cohesive character for the area within the scope of Main Street Amagansett, which would be from Hedges Lane to the western entrance only of the Amagansett Square. By all, it's more of a global look at it, but this specific project scope is limited. It's a focus on safety, ADA access. We can go forward one, Chelsea, if you don't mind. Commerce and infrastructure upgrades. It would maintain and enhance the historical character of Amagansett. The project area, again, scope area is the south side of New York State Route 27 from Hedges Lane west to the Amagansett Square vehicle entrance. It actually will go potentially one panel further, one panel meaning it's a 4x4 section of sidewalk further than that, because we would have to connect to a light pole that's on there. So yes, that's the scope there, but nothing greater than what that scope is right there. Why is this a potential project is needed? Sidewalk width, as we see in some of the photos here and also testimonials, is insufficient for current pedestrian volumes. Let's be honest, Amagansett is happening right now. It is it is a wonderful hamlet, historical hamlet, great stores, great activity, and the sidewalk there right now is not the width for the use of it. If people want to walk side by side, and you can see the trip hazards that have worn out.
Well, you can also see how they're creating their own path adjacent to it because there's not enough room.
Correct. Worn grass areas indicate pedestrian overflow and safety concerns, including trip hazards, as you see in these photos. Cracked concrete drop-offs and tree root damage create trip hazards in the area then too. Limited ADA accessibility and difficult to maintain some of these conditions, primarily from some of our maintenance mechanics. When they try to cut the patches of grass that are there, there's a lot of damage to cars and also other windows because it is not a true grass. You have to string trim it. Overall, let's go to the scope of the project next. The scope of the project would be to remove and replace the existing sidewalk, which is approximately 4 feet wide, with a 5 foot wide, it's a wider 5 foot wide concrete where feasible. And why we say this is feasible is mostly because of the current historic trees that are in the area.
Is this right on your screen? It's not working on mine.
Yeah, no, it is.
No, we need on the scope. We need to be one more forward, if you don't mind.
Hold on, let me restart it. I'm sorry. It froze on my screen.
And why we say go to 5 feet, it mimics what we see in some of our other central business districts, but also will allow for 2 individuals to walk side by side. We would install ADA compliant sensory warning mats at the sidewalk termini. This means where the crosswalks are, which there actually is one there, then where it crosses hedges, and then where it would cross over to the entrance to the Amagansett Square. We would add tree protection boxes using 6x6 wood ties, which would match the north side. These areas would have help with damage to some of the root structures and to the trees. We saw some damage recently with some of the snow removal, unfortunately, to these trees, but it also would match to what we see on the north side. We would replace unused driveway there's an unused driveway curb apron with a New York State standard curb in one of the locations. I don't know why or the history of that curb, but that would be removed. We would install then brick on concrete between the sidewalk and the curb and planter boxes. This would be very similar to what's on the north side, not just in Amagansett, but also what we see in our other commercial business districts of Amagansett and also Montauk. Stay with me, I'll try to show some pictures. I tried my best with some of my schematics here, and we had some sent over to us. This is the current condition one area that would be in front of Jack's Homebrew, or Stir Brew, whatever we call it. I'm a tea guy, not a coffee guy. In this area specifically where the planter is, there is multiple trip hazards being worn out for the trees, and actually a highway put down 3/4 crushed gravel a couple of years back. Overall, the proposed update would be to put between the sidewalk and then where there's actually a curb there, brick on concrete. And the reason why we put it on concrete is it's a longer lasting construction methodology on there then too. The brick won't heave up, create then more trip hazards long-term. It's a long-term and better investment on there. Switch to the next one if you don't mind, please. These are some of the areas where Jack's Stir Brew is at the bottom here. You see how we've had to put down, people just get out of their cars and they just walk straight over the grass, wear it down, wear the trees down, wear the root systems down. And we put down 3/4 crushed concrete there. 3/4 crushed quartz. At the top there, what you're going to see is a former apron. Looks like it's a curb cut apron that's not used. It hasn't been used in decades. That would be removed. The curb would be replaced there. And actually, we might be able to increase the amount of parking spots in that location now also due to sight lines. Next slide, please, if you don't mind. Again, this just moves down in front of one of the historical houses that are there on the property there and shows how we would then end up putting the brick in between the trees. They would also then be boxed in. Now the trees, discussions with arborists, trees have different type of root systems. They have tap root systems and stabilizing root systems. The stabilizing root systems are the root systems that are at the top of the ground. They will be disturbed, but the trees are resilient and they will regrow deeper and stronger also in those conversations. So we know that some of the top root systems will be disturbed. Next would be infrastructure and future proofing, excuse me. We're going to install conduiting for wiring for seasonal Christmas tree lighting and future needs. So in this area, what we end up doing is we end up having Christmas tree lights being strung from wires that come off the telephone poles through the trees. We would put conduiting under the ground there for these Christmas tree lights. And the future needs, if there is movement forward with the lighting district, we would already have this area set up for that if that came to fruition in the near future or the far future, that this area would not have to be dug up, it would be in place. We've installed bases for seasonal and holiday street flags as needed or desired. This design will minimize future disruption to any new streetscape. Next, these are some of the pictures of currently they're on the north side of the road there. What you see here in front of the Wine and Spirit shop and also in front of the Nail and Rowdy Hall, it wasn't Rowdy Hall at that time, that was Main Street Tavern. It's how there is a 5-foot wide sidewalk that fronts all the businesses, goes to brick on concrete, then goes to about a 2-foot concrete little pathway. So when people get out of their cars, and then you see the planter boxes around some of the very the mature trees. Again, similar to what we're looking on the south side, to do on the south side. Again, here, again, to that little bit of the proof of concept, this is one of the largest trees, one of the more historic trees in front of the Stephen Talk House, one that the AVIS works with PSE&G about pruning them, and to how that's boxed in, and then what we can do some of the similar ways in front of the Amagansett Square, where it will protect their root systems, allow them for water, but also be a harmonious design to the north. Next slide, what are the community benefits here? Improve pedestrian safety and ADA accessibility, enhance streetscape continue from the north side of the Main Street area. It will improve access to the businesses and increase foot traffic. It's also easier for snow removal and long-term maintenance, hence cutting the grass. The next page here, again, these are what are on the north side here. This is, again, areas in front of La Carubas, and then also in front of the area of Inner Sleeve Records. Notice how I want to keep different La Carubas.
Alive?
The old life-saving station.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of vibrant businesses on there. What this will then do in this type of design will match what we do in the project scope area on the south side. Shout out to the La Carubas for keeping the history of that building alive, I do have to say. Potential timeline on here. Construction would be anticipated in spring of 2026, weather dependent. Target completion date would be before Memorial Day. The contractor has looked at it, estimated it out, would be prepared to go, and knows about our target deadlines. This has been discussed with the AVIS. The Amagansett Village Improvement Society is supportive of this. Tom, you probably mentioned this was discussed in the Amagansett CAC. I have been in contact with the property manager for the Amagansett Square also. Sent this to that individual. They have some dates in there for some Easter rolls and knowing some of the timeframes of the construction methodology going through that. So we've done some outreach there. Next page on there, again, slide will just show what some of the open areas. That grass there doesn't grow so well during the summertime because it gets walked over. So again, you see from the north side to on the left side to the south side on the right. These are some renderings, the next slides that were sent to me. They're not perfect and they were up for change. But again, the boxes on the trees will be with the wooden boxes to the left, not anything that would be masonry. Don't get me wrong; those are not they're not the benches have, but it will just give a little bit of a graphic how the area would be that would look down from the sidewalk, a new straighter sidewalk, down to the curb. Again, if we go to the next slide. From there, you'll see some of the places that would look like in front of potentially Jack's Cold Brew on there. The person did this, put a little extra beautification there with with their own plants. Those aren't included in there and subject to change. And then last slide is just for questions and showing some of the areas that we are trying to rectify where people are crossing over. As one of the callers stated, this area gets heavily trafficked during the summertime where people get out of their cars, walk over. We understand the discussions for crosswalks in the area. As are further discussions with PD, CACs have debated this way before I've been on here also. But again, it's an opportunity that I know the supervisor has been working with the state for looking at funding for a project that would be harmonious in a smaller section, in a stated section of the village there. Now, one of the also public commenters stated about the other locations in Montauk, other sidewalks. There's a lot of sidewalks in Montauk and throughout the township. We have already commissioned the company that did downtown Montauk sidewalks, where they did ADA trip hazards and used the proprietary methodologies to shave off trip hazards in Montauk, and they are coming to Amagansett, also North Main Street, and some of our other locations to give us estimates and analyzation of that in the business districts, and then also other areas, but they haven't been able to get here because of the weather right now. So in a continued effort for public safety, there's multiple layers to this. I very much appreciate people wanting to say, can we do more? And yes, the town board wants to constantly keep doing more, but it'll be a phased-in approach to that as we go also. This is what's proposed. I'm looking for any comments, questions, maybe Tom, I know that you discussed the Amagansett and your thoughts too.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, firstly, thank you for bringing this forward. I think, you know, the images in the presentation kind of demonstrate that, look, yes, it would be lovely to have grass there, but with the increasing foot traffic we're seeing there, plus with the kind of the ecological setup there with the, you know, in summer when the trees are in full bloom, there's not that much light to help the grass thrive. It's not a great environment for grass to grow. So you're always going to have these problems. Then you come on to the maintenance issues as well, which, yes, we have had complaints of cars being damaged, windows being broken broken as we're going to go in to do that trimming. So it's a problematic area, with the primary issue here for me really being the trip hazard. I mean, one person tripping, injuring himself here could have serious impacts for the town financially or the insurance. So I think this is a great project to bring forward in that sense. When it was brought to the CAC, largely supportive. Dan and Jane, who kind of spoke today, did raise those similar concerns. And I appreciate what Dan's saying. Like, look, how we can preserve grass, it's a great thing. I just don't think this is the right area. I don't think grass is going to thrive here, both for ecological and foot traffic reasons. So I think having a project where we can kind of have better safety, increased kind of scope for foot traffic in what is really the primary commercial part of the town, both sides of the street. I mean, the south side with the Amagansett Square, having undergone some changes, is more and more popular. We have the farmers market there now. So we're really seeing people use this south side far more than they potentially did in the past. And so having something that is more resilient, easier to manage, I think is a great move. As Mr. Cinque called out as well, like, look, the fact that this is not a direct tax impact to residents in the town is huge. As we can do beautification projects that achieve that, I think it's great. So for me, I think this is a great project, and thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Tom.
So for me, I just want to say that, safety is always a primary issue. Trip hazards have to be taken away. But I don't think preserving a historic district and making it safe are mutually exclusive, and you have to give up on one to be able to have the other. That being said, that's just a general comment on things that we do, and we have to fix this, but we can fix more than one thing and preserve more than one thing at once. Having said that, though, I think it's clear from just being in Amagansett quite a bit. And also looking at the pictures, and just for practical reasons, you're not going to be able to maintain grass in these areas. It's obvious that they're just going, people park, wherever they park, they're not going down to find a space where there's no grass. They're just crossing right over. And I don't think I don't think we're able to keep grass there. And I think that's shown in the picture. So for practical reasons, I think putting a brick in is much better than enable to preserving the historic district, which is also important. I think brick is something that fits in with historic nature. And I would hate to see concrete all the way to the curb as a replacement. I think that would impact the historic nature and really take that small town feeling away that we all love so much, and is why we live here. I think that the wider sidewalks, as we see for the pictures, and just practically speaking, obviously, we're impacting even vegetation that's on the other side that could fill in, like in this picture that you have with the, unrealistic probably hydrangeas and stuff with the deer. But we're seeing that this is also getting impact, this area, by people trampling what's there. So we're creating actually less vegetation opportunities than we would if we took care of here and really had a definitive border here to protect this the vegetation that's in front of the stores along this whole area. So I always wonder how the trees do with these boxes. Obviously on the north side, the trees have had boxes for quite some time. I have seen migration where the bricks get picked up. So I guess we'll be looking at maintenance when that happens. And in order to preserve those trees, but their roots are getting trampled right now by folks walking on them. I think it'll be an ecological benefit. And I think the key factor here is matching the brick as much as possible and having a little bit wider sidewalk for folks, and also for ADA compliance. People pushing in, obviously, I mean, they're pushing already, as you could see from the pictures that were up, they're already pushing into the planting areas. So in order to stop that, that would be great. Garbage pails, anything about those garbage pails? They're never attractive
So those
anywhere.
Yeah, so the garbage pails are, they were donated by the Amagansett Village Improvement Society.
I love these
years back.
garbage pails.
They're
Love a donation.
They're Victor Stanley ones. We would reset them on top of any of the streetscape that we would put down. And we've been in contact potentially how we can actually even work with AVIS to see how we can maybe even clean them through some type of power washing.
Yeah,
I know that's been discussed in the past.
That would be great. But overall, I understand. I see this as an improvement.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. I do understand the concerns of two people who spoke about this project. I think Dave's done a lot of research on this, and I think everybody on this board, if you ask us, in a vacuum, do we prefer grass or brick? We would all say grass, but that just, I don't think is the reality for a busy, downtown Hamlet area right now. Tom, thank you for bringing it to the CAC. It sounds like the CAC and the Village Improvement Society, or the Amagansett Improvement Society have both weighed in on this. So it's not without controversy. I think the fact that it matches what's already on the other side of the street is very, very important. I think it's tastefully done and necessary, and I'm fully supportive.
Thank you. Well, I agree with my colleagues, and David, I appreciate, when we were approached that there may be grant funding available from the state, and we, what project would we like to take on? This was the project that you had suggested, and I think it's a worthy one. And
I think you're being a little humble. When the state assemblyman reached out to the town supervisor stating that there was some funding for an infrastructure project, there was some that potentially were out there, and we wouldn't have funding for some type of project without your connection to the state. So, Madam Supervisor, you're being a little humble there. And to your connections and the way that you are interweaving with other jurisdictions, it's another example of, if it was this project or another one, that you're bringing funds from afar back to East Hampton, and that's kudos to you.
Thank you, David. All right, so that's a wrap on our topics. So we're up to liaison reports. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Amagansett, we'll start with the Citizens Advisory Committee. Next meeting is March 9th, next Monday at 6:30 p.m. at the Amagansett School Library. Human Services, this is a very important update, and there's a lot of people out there who don't have, unfortunately, access to healthcare. And the town is partnering to do a health fair, and this is the last one until October. There'll be a health fair on Friday, March 6th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at St. Luke Church Hoy Meeting Hall on 18 James Lane in East Hampton. The health fair is free to the community. You can get your flu shots, glucose examination, blood pressure screening, and speak to health insurance representatives and obtain East Hampton Town Human Services information, as well as nutritional education. There'll also be representative Ola, Meals on Wheels, and the retreat there. It's an event that's sponsored by the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation. And for anyone who'd like more information on that fair, the number to call is 631-329-2425. I also want to give note that for the month of March, Wednesday classes will still be at the Ashwag Hall. However, in April, the classes will be moving back to the Senior Center. They will be at the same time, 1 p.m. Qigong and 2 p.m. osteoporosis prevention. ADU projects, just a reminder that there's a public hearing on for this Thursday evening for the proposed code changes for ADUs. East End Fire Chiefs, there's a meeting this evening, 7 p.m. in Montauk. It will be taking place at the Shagwan Restaurant as the Montauk Fire Department kitchen is currently undergoing renovations. The Arts Council Committee, we are proud again this year to sponsor a March Madness event where students from each grade will be competing with artwork pieces produced, and judging will be taking place on Thursday the 5th by the Arts Council Committee. I highly encourage residents to kind of look into that, and I'll provide images. Some of the creation there is really, truly fantastic. Wildlife Management Advisory Committee. I wanted to give an update here. The town is aware of reports of deceased waterfowl in multiple locations and is coordinating with the New York State DEC and public health officials. Highly pathogenic avian influenza, commonly known as bird flu, is currently present in wild bird populations across New York State and is considered a possible cause. The virus affects waterfowl and other wild birds and can also impact mammals that scavenge infected birds. According to the US CDC, the risk to the general public currently remains low. Most human cases in the US have been associated with direct contact with infected poultry or livestock. Out of abundance of caution, residents are advised to avoid contact with sick or dead birds and wildlife, keep children and pets away from affected shoreline and pond areas, prevent domestic animals from interacting with wildlife. Residents who observe multiple dead or distressed birds, particularly ducks, geese, gulls, raptors, crows, loons, or herons, should report them to the New York DEC, Region 1. The phone number for that is 631-444-0310. You can also report online on the New York City DEC website. And then lastly, for the YMCA, there's a board meeting this Wednesday, 5 p.m. at the YMCA.
Great. Thanks, Tom. David?
Yes, the Montauk Citizens Advisory Committee met last night. I want to thank everyone that attended. I also want to thank Captain Gregory Martin for joining us for a conversation on public safety in Montauk, specifically related to e-bikes. There were recently changes that the county made on e-bikes. Also, the state is looking and made some changes, and we are just updating the committee about how the town of East Hampton is reviewing those changes from the county and the state, actively going to be enforcing e-bike regulations, always moving forward on there for safe, active use of them then too. We also were discussing then, that brought into some issues, not issues, we brought back some, review some comments of prior to when was the Hamlet studies, prior to myself being on the board. Tom, you remember there, we were discussing traffic patterns in the hamlet of Montauk, and we're going to be discussing some more instead of broad initiatives, more focused initiatives. If the committee wants to make recommendations to the town board, if the town board wants to move those, so that'll be upcoming. So thank you to all that were there. I want to let everyone know that the Westlake boat ramp construction, which is a water quality project, is fully underway. Green Velvet contractors have been mobilized, working on their putting in their bioswales, but also some of the permeable pavers. It is a construction site. I want to thank Senior Harbor Master Tim Treadwell for coordinating with some of our baymen that still are using that boat ramp. I want to remind everyone that there is a public hearing on Friday for a public safety, potential purchase of property in Montauk for a new town public safety building. That is this Thursday at 6 p.m. The town Slips and Harbors Committee, we met this past week. I want to thank the members for joining us. We had a discussion on many upcoming policies that we have there that I will bring to the town board in a follow-up email. But primarily, one of the conversations that we had with them were one of the changes that Tim Treadwell brought to the town board a couple of weeks ago, and that was about Chapter 246-5, wharfish fees at certain public docks, where the harbor master is looking for the authority to actually give violations to individuals that are transient that bring transient vessels without authority and dock up some of our slips. That violation would be able to be given in the real time instead of when the boat actually leaves. They were supportive of that, and with that, we can bring that back, and that has to do a change to a public hearing. Bringing that forward then to there's going to be, from that discussion, if we remember when Tim Treadwell came in, there were multiple amendments to the town code that he wanted to do and get those in ready for the summer season. I'd like to put notice of public hearings out for them. They were supported by us, but I wanted just to reconfirm. One of them was a change to the selfish as me sometimes, shellfish town code chapter, and that was going to the hinge point of an oyster, of a scallop, I believe. Sorry, it was a scallop. Another one was to amend Chapter 91, beaches and parks, to the town code to make beach driving in the area of Gin Beach during lifeguarded hours not allowed. And then also, the next one would be about the wharfish fees there that I just mentioned in 246.5A. Maybe what I'll do is I'll resend to the town board what those changes were of that presentation that Tim had, just to reconfirm. But if we put them on for Thursday, notice a public hearing for March 19th, I believe, they will be prepared, ready for the summer season on there. And with that, that's all I have.
That's great, David. That was done, I think, at the January meeting in Montauk.
That's correct. And I want to make sure we got we brought the Slips and Harbors Committee into that discussion. But now I think that suite of changes are effectively ready to move ahead.
Right.
And I'll send that around too.
Beautiful. Thank you. Kate?
Yes, I'm going to report on 2 grants and the formation of 2 committees for those grants. One is the $600,000 grant that we received from the state for Montauk. They're both for Montauk Resilience and Recovery efforts. The PAC is currently being formed. That's the Project Advisory Committee, and we'll be announcing the first meetings on that. Also, concurrently, Kathy, you secured a $200,000 grant. Am I correct in the amount? 3? For the wastewater, for a wastewater study and project for also downtown Montauk. I'm going to be the liaison in that project, working with my fellow colleagues on that. And we're going to be announcing the formation of that committee and first meeting for stakeholders as well. So the 2 of these grants, I think we've secured close to $1 million for work to be done for downtown Montauk Business District and further from that as well. That will help the entire community with resilience and recovery in the future. The next one is the Wainscott CAC. Will be meeting this Saturday, March 7th at 9 o'clock at the chapel down in Wainscott. All are invited. I had a number of committees that were impacted by the town hall closures due to the storm. So I'll end my report there.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Ian?
Spring CAC met 2 weeks ago. The primary topic of conversation was clearing and concern about people who overclear and, what are the repercussions and how do we sort of get a handle on that? I know Kate has been speaking with Natural Resources about clarification of that language, and they look forward to hearing back about that. I know
that was one of my meetings that were canceled.
No, I know.
With the attorney's office on that one, but we're also working on how to denote that on surveys and a better way to do that. So I'll have a report for them for the next meeting.
Great. And I've heard from all sides of people on this issue for clarification of that, of the clearing rules. CHAB, Community Housing Advisory Board, met last week. I want to thank Andrew Garvey, the chairman, and everybody in that committee. That's been a very, I think, productive committee. They've been bringing some outside affordable housing specialists in just to talk about the world of affordable housing, which I think has been very enlightening, even if it doesn't relate necessarily to a specific project. Again, those meetings are public. If anybody ever wants to attend, it is the 4th Wednesday of every month. The Property Management Committee will meet tomorrow, Wednesday at 4:30 in this room. The main topics on the agenda are the Osborne House exterior renovation. We recently received engineering plans that Scott has in hand and wants to go over that with the committee. Hopefully bring that to this board very, very soon. That's one of the projects that we've talked about in the CPF management plan that hopefully is on deck like the Fisher House for this year. Similarly, the Edwards House at Duck Creek, it does not have final engineering plans, but that's another project, another structure that's badly in need of repair and is hopefully on schedule for commencement this year or shortly thereafter. And the last item on the agenda is Brooks Park Management Plan. At the last Property Management Committee meeting, somebody from the public brought that up. There is a management plan on the books, but I think it's a little bit dated, and like all management plans, they're sort of living documents, and I think it's time to revisit that and just talk about what, if any, changes we may want to make.
Just one fact today, and just to let the public know, that building did actually collapse largely in the recent storm.
Yeah, not surprised. So that's something to talk about. Ag Advisory Committee is scheduled to meet next Thursday on the 12th. That, I still have to talk to the committee, but I think that meeting likely won't happen, and that's because they had a whole suite of suggestions to us about how to change code with respect to agriculture and site plan. I've been working, it's fairly complicated in the number of places that will touch. The Attorney's Office, Brittany Toledano, and Tina Lagaran have both been working on that, but there's nothing to present, and so I think that meeting will likely be canceled, but I'll confirm next Tuesday for anybody who wishes to attend, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Ian. David, you want to bring
sorry,
something else up?
I forgot one thing. While I waited for the Army Corps of Engineers meeting about the Montauk dredging project to start this morning, no one showed up because that project is now pretty much complete. They're demobilizing. But what that brings to the fact is that the next portion, the final portion of the downtown FIMP project is about to mobilize this week, where they're going to be bringing equipment to remove the 3 wooden overpasses that are now defective and broken up. So there is going to be movement on that starting this week. I don't have a construction schedule in plan, but I'll let them, some of them, property owners, nearby property owners know that there will be construction, and that's what the equipment down at the location at Kirk Park will be upcoming, which is allowed within the FIMP easements that we have then too. So that portion of that project's also moving ahead. So
You probably want to put that on social media.
yeah, let's work on that. Sure, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me bring that.
Sure,
It's just
absolutely.
another Army Corps project.
So, yeah. So the East Hampton Sag Harbor CAC met last night. I'm going to have a report next week. I do want to say that the Latino Advisory Committee is going to meet this Saturday, March 7th at 8 a.m. at the Senior Center on Springs Fireplace Road. So for the press, you've got an 8 a.m. at the Senior Center and a 9 a.m. at the chapel for Wayne Scott CAC.
Bring coffee.
Yeah, you know, you'll need your rollerblades on. At Thursday's meeting, I'm going to have a resolution to add 5 more members to the Latino Advisory Committee. David, when we first introduced this at a work session, you talked about getting more youth involved. We do have on that committee John Lopez, who was one of the founders of the Latino Young Professionals for the East End, which is a group that's affiliated with OLA. He is recommending 3 young women that are also in leadership in the young Latino young professionals. One is Nicole Velez, who's an undergraduate at Yale, Daniela Chavez, who's an undergraduate at Johns Hopkins, and Valeria Marin, who is a bilingual family educator for Suffolk County Cornell Cooperative Extension. They're all East Hampton High School graduates and have deep ties to the community and work with Spanish-speaking teens and families. So I think that's going to help round out.
I thank you for following up with that.
Sure.
I think that's extremely important.
Absolutely. And hopefully they're our young leaders and, as we move forward in our community. The last thing I wanted to just note is the town board, had agreed for 2026 that we were going to go from 2 stop days a year to 4 stop days a year. So the first stop day is in Montauk on Saturday, March 14th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this way folks can safely dispose of hazardous household waste. I know the sanitation department puts an ad in the paper every year, so they're doing that. And we're going to be promoting this on social media, reminding folks of what they can drop off. So always, that was actually a recommendation that came to us from Kyle Lynch when I went out to the last stop day. He's like, we should be doing this more often as a town. And I'm just grateful that everybody agreed. So that's what we've got. That's a wrap on the liaison report. So now we have a handful of resolutions for today.
It's my pleasure to offer Resolution 2026-376 is to authorize the payment of a prior year invoice to Best Climate Control Corporation, and this is the amount of $416.99.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
377 is a temporary advance of fund for the whole town A fund of $120,000 for procurement of vehicles for the summer beach season.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. 378 is to hire Barry Lockham, DBA Al Green Air LLC. This is for moisture mapping of affected areas at the East Hampton Marine Museum at a cost not to exceed $1,500.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 379, which is to amend Resolutions 2025 2025-39 and 2026-44. This is agreements with outside agencies, and actually this is to correct the name of related to Southampton Hospital. So whereas the town has been informed that the correct name of the program is Southampton Hospital Ed and Phyllis Davis Wellness Initiative, now be it therefore resolved that the town approves the amended name on the contracts for this program for 2025 and 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 380 is to amend a resolution 2024-1277 for the Clean Energy Communities Award, which was a $100,000 grant for eligible energy projects. And therefore, we're going to resolve whereas the town finds that replacement of the charging station at the Amagansett Municipal Parking Lot is an eligible energy project under NYSERDA, Clean Energy's community program, consistent with the town's sustainability goals. Therefore, be it resolved that Resolution 2024-1277 is hereby amended to include the replacement of electric vehicle charging station in the Amagansett Municipal Parking Lot. Further, be it resolved that the town board authorizes the acceptance of the $100,000 grant from NYSERDA and authorizes the use of such funds for the vehicle purchase, for EV vehicle purchase, the Montauk charging station installation, and the replacement at the Amagansett Municipal Lot.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Yes, more grants. I love it. 381 is to reimbursement of a cleanup deposit for the Amagansett Parade for 2026.
Second.
Discussion? Where the parade isn't until 2 Saturdays from now. We're reimbursing their cleanup deposit because
we'll be waiting to see if everything, I think we're a little ahead of the gun. This one might have gotten in a little early because they've never made a mess before, I must say, that we were always refunding it, but I think I'll withdraw this one until after the parade.
Okay, so motion to withdraw 2026-381.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, thanks. Resolution 2026-382 is to retain LK McLean Associates and AKRF for professional services. This is in order to maintain effective technical and timely review of applications pending before the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. RKRF will be retained and compensated at the hourly rate set forth in their schedule proposed February 13th, 2026, not to exceed $5,000. Further resolved that LK McLean Associates DPC will be retained and compensated at the hourly rates set forth in the schedule contained in their proposal dated February 8th at an amount not to exceed $10,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 383, this is to authorize Eastern Environmental Solutions for 54 Tub Oarsman. This is for testing and remediation in the amount of $25,084.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 384, this is to authorize past year invoice for Quackenbush cesspools. This is for annual pump out services at Camp Hero in the amount of $7,927.20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 385, this is to authorize a boiler replacement. The company will be Best Climate. This is for 20 Dorset Road, another home in the town's home ownership program, and the amount is not to exceed $28,944.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 386, this is to amend Resolution 2026-278. The original quote for the project did not reflect the contract price, and a revised quote has been submitted in the amount of $2,100.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 387, this is to authorize acquisition of full interest in the property at 327 Accabonac Road and a 2026 budget modification. Sorry. The amount of the acquisition is $598,490 to acquire full interest. The budget modification is to increase sales of property by $600,000 and to increase purchase of real property also by $600,000. The total financial impact after the resale of the home and the home ownership program will be $399,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2026-388 is to authorize a maintenance agreement for the airport's AWAS system for contract year 2026. AWAS is the Automated Weather Observation System, and this is at an annual cost of $8,013.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
389 is to authorize training for the police department. This is for Sergeant Bradley Rozzi for Tactical Team Leadership Forum. The financial impact is $500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
390 is to authorize payment of previous year's invoices. This is for Marine Patrol from Galls, and this is in the amount of $1,846.66.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
391 is to retain Son Ward, PLLC, to represent the town in Jonathan Tarbett versus the town of East Hampton in the appellate division. I do have to make a change to the last resolve. The resolve should say, resolve that said legal fees shall be paid out of the budget account code that's listed in an amount not to exceed $30,000. So that's the change, adding the not to exceed number.
Second is amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
392 is to authorize employee training for the police department. This is for Captain Gregory Martin to attend the Executive Resource Workshop, and this has a financial impact of $350.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
393 is to authorize the request for fiscal year 2027 congressionally directed spending and community project funding, and this authorizes the Grants Division to submit an application, which is due, I believe, this Friday.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that is all the resolutions that we have. Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
You will in one moment. Sorry.
Right here.
Apologize. Thank you very much. That's probably the best. I will make a motion to go into executive session for CPF, contracts, personnel, public safety, and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, LTV.